Welcome to another episode of the Keep Making Podcast. Today we have Brad Roberts on the podcast. Brad, I'd like for you to introduce yourself if you could.
All right, my name's Brad Roberts. I am from Portage, Michigan, which is southwest Michigan. I am 31 years old. So by trade, I'm in purchasing for a large filtration company.
Okay.
Grew up in Michigan my whole life, grew up south of Detroit, went to university in this side of the state and never left. So fell in love with the area here and never left. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. So by trade, you've got a pretty great job, solid, but I am sitting in the bait shop 2.0, right? Is that what we call it?
The bait laboratory 2.0.
The bait laboratory 2.0. We got the chance to come film here a little bit last week.
Yeah.
And obviously we chatted a few times. You're good friends with Mike Foppel and everybody over at Alumilite. You've known those cats forever, but you've got your own maker station when it comes to lures here.
Yeah, a little bit. So it's the bait laboratory 2.0 because it's the second one. Our previous house I was in was a little smaller garage. If you can't see, we're in a garage here. This one's uninsulated and our heater over here behind us isn't working so great. So the laboratory 1.0 was nice and heated, but we didn't have the space and build it how I want it. So built this bait laboratory exactly how I wanted it. What was the best layout to make all the fishing lures that I like to play around with.
Awesome. And if you obviously can't tell those that are listening, but you can see our breath right now as we're having this conversation. So those watching.
Yep, it's the first real snow here in Michigan. It's about 19 degrees. We got about,
we're sitting in the garage
5 to
with
8
no
inches
heat.
of snow with no heat. But
it's pretty great.
Hey,
it's
that's
awesome.
what it
I
is.
love it. Honestly, I preferred you offered for us to go inside and be nice and toasty, but no, I wanted to sit out here and do the real thing in the laboratory. So let's start with how you got into making lures in the first place, because obviously you're a fisherman.
Yep.
You love fishing, but like, how did the idea first even come into your mind that you're like, you know what, I think I could make my own? I know that there's culture around it, like fish tie, like doing your own tying your own flies and that kind of thing. But I personally didn't even know about making your own lures until I started working at Alumilite. So maybe give the audience a little perspective of how you fell into the lure world.
Yeah, so I think it started like a lot of people that end up getting into it. And you mentioned their flies. So growing up, started making my own flies, tying my own flies. And then got hooked into musky fishing, but that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother day. But got into that, and then at the same time, always been, like to create stuff and develop stuff, and was making lures and started carving some out of wood by hand, and then really said, hey, there's got to be a better way. So, after doing that for a couple of years, started looking into it a little more, and I was searching online and found Alumilite, and it was while I was still, it was about 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, was still in the university here. I'm looking up at this Alumilite place, and I said, hey, this is in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I live in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
I can just
I
go
can't believe
there.
there's a store here.
Yeah.
So I had these creations made out of wood, and I said, I want to make a mold out of this and pour it out of soft plastic. So I said, I'm going to this store. Well, for those of you that have been to Alumilite,
the old Alumilite.
The old one, yes. Went there, walked in, and walked right into the reception and said, this is definitely not a store. I think I'm in the wrong spot. And I said, hey, I'm here to buy some stuff. They said, I don't know, this isn't a store, but come on in and you can talk to Mike. And so I went in and started talking to Mike after a couple minutes, talking about what I wanted to do, and then long story short, worked with him, basically taught me the ropes on everything. And we did a lot of stuff at the workshop there at Alumilite. So he's kind of took me under his wing and taught me a lot of stuff, and then really just got me hooked. Once I found out all the products and all the things and you can mess around and test with, it just kind of, it just spiraled from there.
It's just spiraled for this. This is about, so context wise, this is about 10 years ago. You're still in college.
Yeah, it was about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then you're like, wow, I can make my own. So I'm going to go into this random place.
Yep.
And then Mike Foppel takes you under the wing of all people.
Exactly.
So Mike, what was did he show you like in his office?
No, yeah, he showed me right in his office. Got all the baits hanging in the office, and then he had a big workstation out in the shop, and yeah, I think we went right out there the first day and started making stuff. He showed me how to make mold bases, and showed me how to pour stuff, and showed me the different chemicals, and showed me enough to be able to go home and be dangerous, and I messed it up 100 times, and that's how you learn, though.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. So you were pouring your own this past Friday when we were here together. You've been doing this a while now.
So yeah, I've been doing it probably 6 years. So I had this great idea. I said, oh man, I can make these lures. And I said, well, I can just make a company and start selling them. So I did just that. I started Motown Muskie Company, the Motown part of it, because I was from near Detroit. And started it, and it started off really great, actually. Started getting a lot of orders and a lot of traction, a lot of people contacting me, and then it became a job. So which was
you already
fun,
had a job.
Yes, which was fun and was a hobby to me, which is where the fun is the hobby, became a job. And at that point, I said, okay, we're going to back off of selling baits. I'll still make a lot of them, but it's a little bit here and there, not taking orders from people, doing it on my own time. There's a lot of guys that do it full time and they enjoy it. For me, it just wasn't. It was kind of a passion. It was fun, but when you start having to have to take orders and you have to meet those deadlines, it just took a lot of the fun out of it. So, you'd go to work all day and then come home and come out here in the bait laboratory. And as you can imagine, your wife's not exactly stoked that you come home, eat dinner, and then you're sitting out in the bait laboratory till 11 o'clock at night trying to fulfill orders. So that Motown Muskie Company became a brand. So I still make stuff under it, but it's more or less for fun. For me, it's a creation of new things and trying new things out. So I'll try it out, make a couple, maybe sell a few here or there, and then it's on to the next thing.
Right. I like that you told that story because I think it's a good context because it sounds like you got pretty good self-awareness when it comes to why you're making what you're making. I think a lot of people kind of struggle with that sometimes, like, well, I got to turn this into my new full-time passion and job and everything like that. And for you, it sounded like you just wanted to really play in the making side of it and just enjoy it for yourself so that you could just go and fish then.
Yeah, it was something about it was making it for myself. A lot of stuff is, you're not recreating the wheel with a lot of stuff. You tweak it a little bit, but there are new creations out there, but a lot of it is revisions of stuff that's already out there. But it's making it your own and trying new stuff out and see what works. And the fun of it is, for me, was making something that I made, going out and fishing with it and catching something with it. But probably even more fun than that was making it, something I created, and then having, not even sell, whether it was sold or given to other people to test out, seeing them have success on it and seeing the inbox light up with, pictures of people catching fish cool. and stuff. And there's a lot of guys I do still sell a few baits here and there. There's a lot of guys that I've made stuff for that, let's say, the world's never seen. A lot of guys that have asked me to keep it secret for them. There's a lot of full-time guides that they don't want it getting out there, for whatever reason. So I'm obliged by that. But for me, it's just the fun and seeing people catch something on things I make.
You tapped into something that I'm super curious about the fishing world. Like there's secrets. I feel like all fishermen have their own secret that they really don't want to share.
Yeah.
Does that permeate the entire culture of fishing?
I don't know. I mean, some people, I think there is, right? Everyone thinks they have a secret, right? But they may or may not, right? Some people are open books, right? And some are very secretive. So I think it's definitely the personality of the person.
That makes more sense. Because Larry was our very first guest on the podcast, and Larry. He's like, everybody has their way of doing something, and everyone thinks their way is the best way.
Well, and they're all right. I mean, like you said, they are all right. Because when the fish wants to eat something, if you see it, it doesn't matter if it's a white lure or a brown lure. Personal opinion, if they're hungry, they're probably going to eat it as long as it looks somewhat presentable. So yeah, everyone has their own way of doing it. I like to go my own way and make stuff it's a little bit different.
Cool. Very cool. So, I want to bounce around a little bit. How did you get into fishing in the first place? Is this something that you said you were tying flies when you were younger? Is this a family thing? Is it like you had a best friend when you were 8 and you guys just went fishing all the time and this like never left you? How did you fall in love with it to begin with?
So more of a family thing. So my dad took me fishing from as early as I can remember. I remember catching my first fish. It was a little bluegill.
My first fish was a bluegill.
Yeah, just a tiny little, I think it was a tiny little bluegill, I'm pretty sure. I couldn't have been, maybe 4 years old or 5. And so that's the last memory. If it wasn't my first fish, I didn't remember it, but that's the one that stuck out that I can clearly, vividly remember. That was pretty much the end of it. For me, it really got me hooked. And then from there, we grew up right on Lake Erie, basically. So it was, and we were 5 minutes from the Detroit River where it dumps into Lake Erie. So I was growing up walleye fishing, and you didn't realize how good I had it being that close to such a good natural resource. So it was really easy to get out there and to do it. But it was really family, So it was with my dad. He always took me out, and we'd do it.
Do you have any siblings?
I have one sister.
Okay.
Yep. So
does she participate in the fishing as well?
No. Not quite. So yes, have one sister, and then married and have a little over 1 year old daughter now.
Oh man.
So my wife went fishing a couple times with me.
Nice.
But
so I should say this for the listeners. Kylie is our HR. Kylie works at the office.
That is correct.
I brought my paperwork to her on one of my first days, and I didn't know that you guys were married the first time that I had a phone call with you about being on the podcast. And then then Kylie's like, "Hey, you chatted with my husband." I was like, "Oh,
yeah, put two and two together." So perk of working there. If I need some soft plastic or something, I got. I don't have to go. I don't have to go pick it up now. Yeah. So she can bring it home for me. That's awesome. But I haven't been making lures, so I haven't been able to really utilize that resource yet. So
awesome. So one thing that I've been learning about recently, and even in the interviews that we've been having, is it seems like when the act of making something, even if it's a lure or experimenting, or like you mentioned, like not necessarily reinventing the wheel, but just like tweaking it a little bit. Have you felt that the act of making has helped you in other areas of your life? I know for me, for instance, like even doing this podcast, like it helps me clarify my thinking. I can ask better questions in meetings. I listen a little better because in this setting, like I'm dialed in. So for you, have you found that did it help you with your job? Did it help you to relieve stress at home? Like
actually
help me unpack that.
On the flip side of it. So, within my working career, a lot of the stuff we're doing is plastics, injection molding, and blow molding. So,
oh wow, so they're like very close.
Coming up and understanding, how to make molds and how to design stuff really helped the learning curve of how to make stuff there. For the making and what that's helped with, it's really just creativity, right? So I'm making baits, but then I might need to make something else, right? For some need that we have around the house, or something broke, and okay, I can't buy this, they don't make it anymore. So that's one for me was big to add that other side. I said I don't need to go search for that. I can make it here in the bait laboratory.
Yeah, Larry would mention it as being like self-sufficient, and that's satisfaction in and of itself. Like your ability to just be like, oh no, I can do this, or I can try at least, or figure it out.
Oh yeah.
So tell me one of the stickier projects that you've attempted to do when it comes to either a house project or making a lure project that just failed miserably, and then maybe one of your favorites as like, oh, I didn't know I could do it, and it was like the top. I was like really happy about it.
So similar, if you listen to Larry's podcast, I also did a couple fish. So I really started out actually making molds of fish, and then would sculpt them into a lure.
Oh wow!
And so I did not have the negative issues that he had, where he was cooking the fish. Yeah, because Mike guided me, but it was really cool to see and to make. Now on the flip side, you don't realize it does still cook it somewhat, even though it's not to the temperature of the material he used. So it gets pretty nasty. There's been so many failures. So that's
maybe pick one of your highlights that you like.
Well, it's not like they failed miserably. They just didn't work. Like I had this vision, I'm going to make this, it's going to swim like this, and it doesn't do anything, right? And it's
Just
frustrating, right?
yeah.
Because you put all this time in, you make it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you're spending days on it, you make it, and then you make a mold of it, and then it doesn't work.
Mm.
But what it helped me with all its failures, right? With what does work now, so you can cut down the development time. As well as being able to figure out how to make quick prototypes to just test, is this design probably going to work? Maybe, rather than do the whole thing and then realize it doesn't work. So the failures just cost money, right? You're
Right.
spending money on these molds and stuff, and if they don't work, it's, you know.
Right. But so now the flip side, the upside. So when you do get the ones that are working, can you help me unpack that feeling? Because like the reason why I ask these questions is the people that listen to this, one of our goals really is to like provide them a lot of value and maybe help them get around their own insecurities. Is like, can I make something? Because I think we all have that moment of like when you see something, you're like, maybe I could make that, or maybe I could try and make that, but they might be scared, or they like, oh,
It is scary. Well, it's not scary. Like,
but
you're
like a lot of
scared
things are
something.
scary.
It's more of it's an unknown, right? And you don't know. It's really unknown if I'm gonna put the time and money into this and then it fails. So getting over that and learning how to do it is really, it really helps, right? It's the benefit, the upside of it outweighs those failures. When you make something and you pull it out of the mold or however you make it, it's like opening up a Christmas present, especially for the first time. You're looking at this thing, and it's like, oh wow, this is I just made this, right?
Yeah.
And that's the fun for me. And that's actually the most fun, because then I'll make about 3 more, and then it said that for me. Then that feeling goes away, and then it's like,
so it's 3.
Yeah, it's like you're opening up a Christmas present and it's socks. You know,
You're like, oh, I got socks last year.
well, actually, I'm running low on socks, but so I would be happy.
Kylie, did you hear that?
Yeah,
If you listen to this podcast,
that's on my
for
Christmas list. But that's and that's really, that's for me, and that's why I try to just create something and it's on to the next thing.
Awesome. So that's pretty cool. I like the way you described it. When you make something and it works, it's like it's Christmas morning. It's like it's a satisfaction that kind of just keeps giving. And then you're like, well, I want to make something else now and like keep experimenting. So everybody's different, and this is one of the questions that I sent you earlier was like, what's some of the most important things in your life? And obviously, like, you've got a great job, you've got a family. Like, help me understand like some of your motivations in life, because I think that informs how people are creative or how they go about making things and that kind of stuff.
I would say, you know, outside of, right, with work and family and stuff, the motivation, I think motivation, a lot of it's internally. You have it or you don't have it, right? You can watch motivational, you know, videos and stuff, and there's all kind of content out there, and that may motivate you for the next hour. But I think the true motivation is within, right? You can motivate someone to do something or do a task, but I think the true motivation really comes from within. And so I don't know what it is, but for me, it's to make something and to make it to the best that I can. And it's really just deep down inside for me, whether that's making something or whether that's at work, just being to the best of my ability. And then also helping everybody else around me be to the best of their ability.
That's cool.
Right. And helping them develop the talents, and whether that's at work or whether that's helping somebody to make their own baits. Right. So for me, a lot of that motivation comes from internally when I'm making something or working, but then also the second part of it for me, and that's what I enjoy the most out of it, whether again it's in my career or whether that's making lures, is helping people develop to be to the best of their ability, you know, giving them the resources and ensuring they have that discipline to operate on that highest level, and I guess be the best version of themselves.
That makes sense. So let's unpack that a little bit more. It's like the best versions of themselves. You say you like helping people, so how do you bring people into the laboratory? Do you show them the workshop, or do you or at work? Obviously, like there's a lot of different things. Everybody at work, there's so many support systems, or people that don't know what they're doing, like their first day, like, let me help you.
Yeah, work-wise, you know, you're more on like professional and personal development side of it. Yeah, in the laboratory, yeah, I've definitely had some people come in. A lot of it is, you know, you're reaching people from all over, and so they're reaching out to you and on a lot of times Facebook and messaging back and forth, and
asking
really
you
just
questions.
just working with them. And really the same thing Mike did to help me, right? He just walked me through, this is how you do it, you know, and I tell him, don't do this because this is what I did and it definitely did not work, right? Or try to maybe design it this way because this is probably going to get what you need. So not so much in the laboratory, just because a lot of the people that I've worked and interacted with don't live close
Right.
enough to
Close
drive.
enough, right. But online, you're like, if they're trying their own experiment, you want they
Oh
have
yeah, give them
questions,
a call or or Skype message them and help them walk through the whole process and try to cut down their learning curve so they're not spending time and spending money. And that's the fun, the true fun is it for me. Besides actually seeing people catch fish on my baits that I made, is helping them create their own, so then they can go.
They can do it themselves.
Yeah, they can go do it themselves.
They can have their own little Christmas morning.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Well, exactly. And I've in some cases too, well, people will send me. Had a few times people will send me a bait and say, I want to make a mold of this. Can you make a mold for me? And so I'll make it for them and, ship it back to them.
And then that way they can have because even like that's the cool thing about these products is like you can do the mold and you can do the part, or you could just do one of the things. Like make the mold and like, oh, I like that part, or I just like the end result. So I just want to pour and then I have this new thing.
Yeah.
You could do both.
Yeah,
pretty much like whatever your heart desires, you could do with this stuff, which is crazy. Mike always describes it like a hammer and a nail that you can make whatever you want with.
Well, it is like it's like teaching giving somebody a fish or teaching them how to fish. Right? It's giving them the tools to be successful. And I tell you, the videos. This is just firsthand account. It's the videos that are on the Make Lure website, whether it's making lures or whether it's making whatever, it's all the same processes. Just to happen that they're making a mold of a fishing lure versus making a pen. I don't know. All of that's on there. All of that's on the website. If it doesn't, I can guarantee you, if you call up there and say, I need some help, I guarantee it, Mike's going to walk you through. You should probably do this and help walk through the...
Yeah, the customer service there is pretty unreal. I mean, the Carol and the entire team and Don and they're all just ready and willing to.
No, the culture is probably it's like any other place that I've seen. Just with my job, I see a lot of different companies going into suppliers and such, and so the culture, which we talked about it a little bit earlier before this, is top notch.
Yeah.
You won't find a lot of other. I mean, there are other places, but they're on the top of those great places to work lists. Globally.
Yeah. I would definitely say that because the way that Mike helped you is the same way that he helps the people that work for him. It's the same way that he helps our customers, and that permeates the place. And it's very. You can't really be one that's like, I don't really like helping people. Well, you probably are not going to last long at this company. Like, here. This is culturally not a good fit.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, speaking of Mike, he was the first one to help you. I feel like you guys now know each other and are friends now. You got any fun stories about him? He gives me so much crap when I ask these kinds of questions because he's like, you keep looking for dirt, don't you? And I'm like, I'm not looking for dirt. I mean, I just like hearing stories about you.
Not any dirt.
No, there's no dirt. I just like hearing stories about him. He's my boss. I also got to rib him sometimes.
No, I don't have any bad stories or any crazy stories. We got to go to Costa Rica, him, Larry, and I, in March. And that was a really cool experience.
This past year?
Yeah, this past year we went to Costa Rica, and so we went down there to help some displaced workers from the shrimping industry.
Oh, yeah, tell the story, because Mike actually didn't tell this story, and I've heard only bits and pieces from Larry and Mike, but like only little pieces of it.
So I'll start at the beginning because that was going to be my Mike story anyways.
Perfect.
So we're going there, and this is March, and it's really cold. There's a huge winter Arctic blast coming through, and it's like 60-mile-an-hour wind. Okay.
Oh man.
So we're driving to the airport, and we're flying out of the Grand Rapids Airport near where you live, and so we're heading up 131, the highway, and this gust of wind comes, and it gets under my tonneau cover on my truck. Well, it pops it off, and so it's just flap. My whole tonneau cover is flapping in the wind like it's a flag.
Oh, geez.
And so we're in the middle of the highway. This thing's just flapping up and down, so we have to get off. Or just pull over on the side. I can barely open my door because the wind. I mean, it's that
bad.
It's that bad.
Yeah, I think I remember this.
And it's like single-digit temperatures out too. So we get out, and Mike and I jump in the back of the truck. We have to rip the tonneau cover off, just rip the leather right off, bundle it up, throw it in the back of the truck, and then just go. And so this is a heck of a start. Well, we get to the airport, we get on the plane, and then the plane needs to get de-iced, and then so the snow's coming in at this
Right.
time, and so we sat for an hour on the runway, and then we finally took off. We were the last plane that took off before they shut the airport down for.
So you barely
Yes,
made it out.
well, which would have been bad because then we met Larry in Atlanta, and then we all flew together down to Costa Rica. So that was a good start to the story. So not dirt, but it was pretty.
Oh, yeah, there's an
pretty
adventure.
interesting
So, yeah,
adventure.
You went on some adventures.
Yeah, and then that was So when we got to Costa Rica, it was a lot warmer than here.
Yeah, I'd say you probably were doing pretty
Yeah.
nice down there compared to March in Michigan.
Oh yeah. So so the basis of going it was to help the displaced shrimp workers, to teach them how to be self-sufficient, basically, and make a lot of the fishing lures that were used for offshore fishing, so for billfish, so for sailfish, marlin, etc. Because a lot of lures are not made locally; they're imported
Okay.
and sold at a high cost, and so.
So
the way-
so maybe I'm not trying not to derail your story,
No,
but
that's
like
fine.
when you say the shrimping industry like moved on, like so these guys there's just no shrimp anymore,
No,
or like
I think so. Don't quote me. Larry would tell you exactly the details, but basically the government shut down the ability to catch shrimp,
it.
and I don't know if it was because of decline in the population. So the people that were teaching were handling the shrimp after they were coming into the warehouses, peeling them and such. So.
okay, so they were looking for a new work.
Yeah,
really.
basically, yep.
Yeah.
So we're trying to help them to be able to make these lures so that they could be self-sufficient and make them, because there's a lot of charters for these fish, so professional charters, to be able to sell to them at each of the marinas and such.
Okay,
And so there was an
okay.
update. Larry actually posted an update a couple weeks ago now on an update on some of the people that we had taught and some of the what they've
They're
been
making
working
good
on.
progress.
So-
I reshared that video, so they a lot of people are making lures, but also like they're doing well. Like
Yeah.
it's actually working.
Oh yeah, no, it was a really cool experience.
Awesome. Cool. We got to do some more. We got to put some more content out about that, because Larry's like, I know you guys filmed a bunch of stuff down there, but like I haven't seen any videos of it, and now that falls on us. to
Yeah,
make
I
some
got a
videos of
couple
that.
good. I had a couple good photos, but my phone broke and I lost everything. So
Oh,
I was trying to be the content guy and take a lot of photos and stuff, and I lost all the photos, so I can't help you there.
Okay,
But
so-
yeah, there was a lot of video. Yeah, the news reporters were there and interviewing and everything. So it was. Yeah, it was a big ordeal. I was at a local university, well, like a trade school there.
Okay.
And so you were teaching the instructors too, who were going to teach it in classes.
Also, it was like this is a long-standing thing. You were like building a program that then they'll be able to like
Yes.
just continue to do this.
Yep.
Okay. I'm tracking a little bit better now. So, how long were you guys down there?
1 week, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
1
Very
week.
cool.
Yep, we got to go fishing one day. This was the first time I ate raw tuna.
You
on the
ate
boat.
raw tuna.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I caught I reeled in a tuna. And
You did? Okay.
Yeah, it
How
wasn't
big?
big. No, it wasn't
Oh,
big. It wasn't
okay.
big. It wasn't like a wicked tuna where they're like 600 pounds. It was a
Right.
little one.
Still, you caught a tuna.
And I've
never caught a tuna.
I didn't either. So I caught it and we pulled it in the boat and then Larry got so excited. I'm like, it's not that big. I didn't know what he was excited for. Well, I was excited to eat it.
Oh, of course.
So we caught it and they threw it in the box and let it bleed out. And then they cut it up, put it on ice. And on the way back in, they pull it out, fillet it up in little medallions and just raw, put it on a
was
piece
it
of
good?
soy sauce and wasabi. So I don't even like fish, so it's weird. I know a fish. I don't
like,
really.
wait a minute.
I don't
You
eat
eat
fish.
fish all the
Yeah,
time.
I don't eat them that much. I don't hate them, but I don't love them. So I just choose not to eat it. So it didn't taste like fish. I mean, it was amazing, and I don't like sushi at all. But I said, when am I ever going to get this chance again?
Yeah,
Right.
I was
So
gonna say if you didn't eat the fish
Oh,
that
yeah,
you reeled in
doused
in
it up.
Costa Rica,
Yeah.
I think everybody would be very upset with you.
and I was it was awesome.
That's awesome.
It was really, really good. Soy sauce and wasabi and raw and
Awesome.
way better than I was expecting for someone that doesn't really like fish.
That's awesome. So I have so many questions about you not liking fish. I'm like, so do you just catch and release everything? Is that like
Yeah,
your big
pretty
thing?
much.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, short story. A lot of times in the spring, the walleyes run into the rivers and people go catch them and they just catch their limit and then they're allowed to go out the next day, catch their limit again, just because people like to eat walleye. And I don't really like to eat them. So if you go to a lot of the big rivers, but the Detroit River being one, you have millions of walleyes coming in and you have just thousands of boats. And sometimes you're really, really close boat. You know, almost high five the guy in the next boat.
Right.
And so me and took my wife this year and my dad in the spring, and it's like unheard of if you catch one, especially the small ones, that you throw them back. Everyone's out there to catch them and eat them, right? So we were out there, and I was like, I don't want to eat these. I don't feel like cleaning them. So I was catching them. I would just catch one after another. I kept throwing them back.
Were people just going, "What are you doing?"
I would watch around, and people would like be poking their buddy and like saying, "Look at this guy!" And it was just so funny. Cause I caught like 6 or 7 of them, and then my wife caught some. And we were just throwing them back, and these people were looking at us like we're nuts.
Right.
So that was I just. I'll eat some, but not very often.
Okay.
Let most of them go.
Well, cool. Well, I've got a couple more questions, but I wanted to prep you. One of the things that I didn't tell you is that you're allowed to ask me a question. It's just something that I do when I host a podcast, because I'm obviously asking someone a whole bunch of questions about their life and how they operate, about creativity, and about what they do for hobbies and for a living. And I think it's a little unfair if you don't allow the person to ask me.
Yeah, I guess. What do you? So you now been with Alumilite for a couple months now. What do you like the most, or what do you like about the company?
Wow, that's a great question.
And what do you hate? No, I'm just kidding.
So for me, the culture. So like my position's a little interesting. So I actually work for Polytech, technically. So Alumilite is one of the 4 brands that are on the consumer-facing division, and Alumilite is the one that we're kind of based out of. So I work really closely with that entire team and that entire brand. I love it. So and the culture there has been incredible to soak in, because there's a lot of, well, I'll put it very bluntly, I'm a millennial and I own it through and through. I was born in '86. Like, I grew up in that culture. You get certain perceptions about businesses and corporations and like that kind of thing. And I worked really separate from that world for a lot of years. So I had my like guard up a little bit. Yep. Like, when's the other shoe going to fall? This is too good to be true. Mike can't be this nice of a guy. Like there's like the culture can't be like, people can't be actually that friendly. Like, you have your guards up a little bit. And then after like the first week, I was like, why is my guard up at all? These people are wonderful. They're all really nice. They all keep asking me about my family. They all keep wanting to help me with any questions that I have about this entire mold making and resin world that I know zero things about. So for me, it's been a really huge blessing, because I landed in a place that they feel like my people.
Yeah.
Because like I really love helping people. I really like telling stories. And I get to combine those things now and share stories about people making things and improving their lives, or helping other people and help them make things. So the thing that Mike always said in the office that first week that I made this little presentation about with him and Don Fowler was like, I heard we just want to make things to help people make what they want to make. I heard that some version of that like a ton. Yeah. And so I was like, this isn't just talk. This is actually, it's all true. So yeah, I like it a lot, if that answers your question. Yeah. And I'm going to keep liking it, because we just get to keep going now. That's part of the reason of this podcast. Like we want to help people we want to talk to people that create their way through life. And Mike has done it, and Alumilite's done it, and the other brands that we're a part of are doing it. And we want to see more people do it too. So if there's any way we can help them do it, we're gonna. Oh yeah, like I said, anybody at the company is more than willing to support and wants to help, and genuinely wants to help, not just to make a sale. There's a difference, right? Oh,
you can tell.
It's huge. Yeah, you can smell it, and that's what I was sniffing for. Yep. Like that first second, I'm like, all right, where's the BS? Yep. I know it's got to be around here somewhere, but I'm like, well. Okay. After all these years, I can tell you it's not there. Yeah, that's quite nice. And the more people that I talk to that have interacted with the brand, that it remains to be true. And of course, I'm sure there's somebody that's just like unhappy at some point, but they're probably a curmudgeon, Yeah. But cool. Well, Brad, I want to thank you so much. Like, this has been a wonderful time interviewing you. You've been a really great guest. You're natural at this. You haven't even done this that many times. Never. I did once, right? You've done one other podcast. We talked about I haven't done any podcasts or listened to podcasts until about 6 months ago, and then I did a muskie fishing one a month ago. We did this one, and then I got one planned for next month on the. You're gonna have to like put it on your resume. Side. Like, I'm a podcaster now. Like, exactly. Yeah. So if anyone is looking for a guest on their podcast, hit up Brad Roberts. Yeah, Joe Rogan. If you're looking for me, I'm here waiting. I think everybody wants to get on that podcast. I would also like to get on that.
Yeah,
podcast.
after this one, I think it's going to reach him for sure.
This is it. This is the one. This is the real big one.
I feel it. It is.
Cool, dude. Well, hey, I really appreciate you being on. It's been a pleasure interviewing you.
Yeah,
I really am grateful.
Yeah, thanks for coming. No, it was a fun time, and I think, like I said, you repeat it again. But anyone that wants to make stuff, anyone at the company is even more than willing to help. And any video there will really walk you through being able to figure it out on your own as well. So don't be scared and go make mistakes and fall flat on your face doing it, but because that's how you're going to learn it too. So don't be afraid to go out there and pour some goop together and see what happens.
I couldn't have said that better. Thank you.
I appreciate it.